Hey all, it's Zach Loeks. Let's talk about the benefits of permabeds. These permabeds, these raised garden beds that are made out of the earth, they're earthen mounded beds that are reformed out of this material from the paths. From that flat ground, initially they're formed into a series of raised beds. And they have bed tops on them and they have these paths in between them. And there's a lot of benefits of these raised garden beds because they're not flat ground. Flat ground is compacted. A permabed has soil structure. It has space in here for organisms to move around. It has space in here for the roots from crops to get down into the soil and really help that crop grow. Because of that compaction, it also means that water will puddle in flat ground and can actually make them completely waterlogged, which makes it hard to plant, hard to work the ground, hard for roots to grow. In a permabed, there's going to be drainage and water is going to go into these paths and drain in, and in here they're going to drain. But it's not just about drainage. Permabeds also have architecture. Because permabeds have a soil conservation core and they have all that soil life living inside of them, that soil life is building aggregation in the soil. If you zoomed in here, you'll see that an aggregate in the soil is really a building block of spaces that are full of water and spaces that are full of air and spaces that are taken up with the mineral material, whether it's clay or silt or big sand grains. And so you start to get this space that's formed like a house, really, and that includes also soil organic matter like rotten plant debris. And this is an aggregate, a soil aggregate. And this soil aggregate is the building block of the civilization that lives in the soil. It's hard to get aggregation in this flat ground because there's all this pressure of compaction from tractor tires, from human feet, from rain even compacting the surface. And because the water is not actually percolating in, you're not going to get as good of a freeze-thaw action in here, opening up soil, and roots are going to have a harder time penetrating to open up soil, because what we want to do is open up the soil to make the porosity of the soil. And we'll go into more details about soil and holistic soil, which is what this is all about, in a different video. But with a permabed, the benefit of that holistic soil, that aggregation in the soil, is that drainage, is the life in the soil that help crops grow. But it's also the fact that you're going to actually hold more nutrients in the soil. You're going to get more cation exchange capacity, or CEC, in the soil. More nutrients like iron and magnesium and phosphorus being held by the particles in the soil, released to the plants when they desire them. So that's again, another benefit. So you're seeing here, there's so many benefits that happen simply by raising this bed up. Simply by raising it up, you're increasing drainage, increasing freeze-thaw action, increasing soil life habitat, increasing cation exchange capacity, increasing the storage of water, throughout the growing season, in the interstitial spaces of the soil. So many massive benefits that come from permanent raised beds, and these permabeds, which are permanent raised beds that are earthen mound and are never destroyed, only reformed, taking path material and adding it to the bed top over periods of years. This also comes to mind now that the other big benefit of a permabed, and really something that is really admirable for the future, is the fact that it allows us to pattern trees in here, and maybe there's even like currants growing under here and some ground covers, maybe ostrich fern growing. So this one bed becomes a perennial bed. But that doesn't mean that I can't still continue to grow annual vegetables out here, like this squash here, for instance, or a bunch of radish or spinach here, maybe some melons over here, and I can continue to have annual vegetable production while also having this production here of fruit, maybe pears or apples or something in here, and berries and herbs. So this integration of annuals and perennials, of vegetables and fruits, comes by having permanent placement in a garden space, in a yard or on a farm. Turning it into a series of permanent raised beds allows us to define what each raised bed is used for. This even means that a space for a raised bed could simply be turned into a pollinator meadow slash alley, to come along with your, say, your garden cart or something like that, and to be able to walk along here and easily access. And then you might have a continuation of more garden plots on this side over here, in other crops, so maybe you have some rhubarb there. So this organization comes from the permanence of the raised bed and the fact that it's never destroyed, only reformed. So all the benefits of that drainage come from that, and all the benefits of organization. You also get this, increased drainage and also increased heat because there's more surface area around a raised bed. This raised bed is going to actually have more heat, warmth coming down to it because it has more surface area. So you're going to get earlier production in the spring with a raised garden bed. And with a permabed, because it has the soil conservation core, the soil life is going to be more active right away in the spring, as opposed to a garden bed that's starting from tillage. So I just want to juxtapose all these benefits to your typical sort of scenario. Many of us are familiar with, starting out like this or seeing production like this back in the day more. Flat ground growing, where we might have flat ground growing like a crop field, but also you'll see some raised garden beds being formed, and they're actually being formed because, say, a tractor is driving over top of a garden bed and it's tilling in here and it's fluffing the middle of the bed. The middle of the bed gets fluffed up and the paths get packed down. And I just want to say that this process of packing a path down and fluffing a bed up isn't the process of building a permabed. That's actually one of the key reasons why I chose the term permabed to describe these garden beds instead of just calling them raised garden beds. Because the moment you create a new term for something, it actually helps better define it. So these are not beds that just have tilled, fluffy centers and packed paths. And trust me, those start to look like a garden bed in the middle of the year because it's packed down and fluffed up. So it does have, some architecture, so to speak, but this architecture is only as long lasting as, the season, and often really it's only as long lasting as, 3 or 4 months before it really starts to settle down. So a permabed, you're physically moving that earth material. You're actually building up this bed. Maybe you're building up to 4, 6, 8+ inches high with physical material building it up. This is a big difference compared to tilling a bed. If I even walk with a walk behind tractor and I just till a bed 30 inches wide, I've raised the soil by introducing air, but I haven't actually added material. If I till it with a four-wheel tractor, I'll raise it up even more because of the power of it turning up deeper. I'm increasing the volume, but I'm not increasing the mineral component. So a permabed has more mineral and organic matter in the middle of the bed because it actually takes material from the path, lowering it down to build this up. It adds additional material through compost and manure, and then it continues to add manure through one of its principles of cover crop priority, which is always focusing on having cover crop whenever you have any kind of delayed period or any sort of scheduling where you have an opportunity to have something else growing other than your crop, to build green manure and add fertility and organic matter to those raised beds. So there is a lot of great benefits to permabeds. We're barely scratching the surface here, but already can you see the power of them, that they energize us to be able to have diversified patternings of annuals and perennials, and even animals and other types of kingdoms of life can be integrated into the design framework. And they also have so many benefits because of the way that they interact with the elements, from allowing water to drain, to increasing heat for spring warm-up, to stabilizing a structure inside to allow root penetration, drainage, and the overall development of soil life over many, many years. It's really about evolution. Permabeds allow us to evolve and allow our gardens to evolve because we're actually in interaction with them as an ecosystem. So this has been a bit on the benefits of permabeds, and I think this is some really great food for thought to go forward and redesign your garden systems to integrate these permanent raised bed structures And if you're starting from scratch, then checking out some of the videos we have on how to design these from scratch. So I'll see you in the next one.